if you're looking at buying a vacation property, whether it's here in Orlando or anywhere else that's out there, not only historical data, but tune in, plug into a very, very educated, established property manager and have them forecast 6 months, 12 months, 18 months on how your house might perform.
Welcome to the Dream Home Podcast, the show where real estate meets real talk. Hosted by John Nagle, a seasoned expert with over $7 billion in real estate financing experience. This podcast features top realtors, builders, and financial pros. Whether you're buying, selling, or investing, we've got the tools to help you make smarter moves. Here's your host, John Nagle.
Hey everybody, this is John Nagle from CMG Home Loans, and you're listening to the Dream Home Podcast, the show that explores the people, communities, and programs helping you turn the dream of homeownership into reality. Today, I have an incredible guest, Derrick Mnick, a top producing real estate advisor with Reunion Realty, serving Central Florida and the Disney corridor. Derrick's story is truly one of a kind, from graduating at the top of his class in the Disney College program to being named Rookie of the Year and consistently winning top producer awards in Orlando. He is a powerhouse real estate business that blends hospitality, art, and hustle. We're going to dive into what makes Derrick unique and how he helps clients navigate today's shifting market and the magic behind his success. Derrick, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
John, it's quite an introduction. I hope I can live up to it.
Well, Derrick, let's start off big. What would you say are your real estate superpowers? What do your clients say make you stand out?
Well, I think it probably comes from many years in the hospitality industry, many years in the service industry, and kind of having a service mindset. I really try to listen to my clients and not, push an agenda or push a product. Every client I have is different. They have different wants, different needs, and I got to tune into that because if I don't, I'm going to miss it.
Absolutely. And I know you work with several development properties and which includes vacation rental and other types of ownership, which is unique to your area code. So can you speak a little bit about that business?
Yeah, Orlando is such a great town. I've been here for 25 years and this town continually reinvents itself. I tell people right now, Orlando's going through a renaissance with all of the great things that are happening here, from the increase in infrastructure, from a theme park perspective, a highway, housing, jobs, and everything feels like it's booming here. And there's never going to be an end in sight. But that's good. That's good for real estate. And when you talk about how I help my clients in that, it's part of being able to help tell their story and help them be part of this story that's happening here in Orlando. And if you don't know this, there's about 85 different short-term rental or vacation property communities within what we call the Disney corridor. And we have about 70 million guests that visit us every year. So having the unique ability to understand what community works best, why it might work best for a specific client, whether it's price point, budget, usage, proximity to their favorite part in Central Florida, all that stuff becomes very, very important.
Yeah, and you and I were talking earlier about the COVID impact in your area, which is quite a surprising story. So can you tell me a little bit about that, on how that all...
Yeah. It's an interesting story. There's a lot of people that I meet, whether they're first-time investors or first-time in Orlando investing into the vacation home industry, and everyone consistently asks me for historical data. How is the house performing? And I think that is a very valid entry point into understanding the process of buying a property. But the reference I'll make is COVID. And COVID, yes, horrible tragedy threw everybody's life into, a crazy tizzy, and we're still feeling the effects of it today. But one of the good things, and yeah, I said good things associated with COVID, at least for Central Florida, was we became a place that people wanted to come and visit. And what it did for our communities was, inadvertently, resorts were not accepting guests. Disney shut down for, I think it was 2 or 3 months, but people still wanted to come to Florida, and they started to then seep back into these communities. If I can't rent a hotel room, maybe I can rent a home. And the home does have a kitchen. It's got a pool. It's got a parking place. And they're in these beautiful communities that are highly amenitized. So we felt this great tidal wave of new interest, people who have never rented a home through a VRBO or an Airbnb, who were always just kind of in that traditional vacation planning experience where you pick the hotel, you get the shuttle bus, and you just kind of fit into it, where now we can rent a home. We can bring more family with us. We don't have to kind of obey the pool hours, if you will, because the pool's in our backyard. So we had a huge influx of people that got reintroduced and have continued to come back and enjoy our communities more so probably than before COVID did. But the point that we were talking about was historical data and finding out, is it a good investment for me? As you can imagine, these homes, and the way we gauge our properties is an occupancy rate or average daily rate. And you can imagine that some of these homes that people were renting during COVID had occupancy rates that were exceeding normal expectations. Typically, we range in the 60 to 65% range for occupancy. This experience put us at about a 90% occupancy rate.
Wow.
So I'm in a place right now that there's an alarm going off. Are you hearing it, John?
No.
No. Okay. No problem. We can cut that part out if you need to. But so occupancy rate goes up to 90%. So now when people are looking at buying homes, they're seeing that these houses are booked at a pretty, extraordinary rate percentage of time. So when people bought these homes, they used historical data, which might not have been the most accurate because of what COVID had done to the marketplace. More so now, 2 and 3 years later, those folks who bought those properties, the expectation that they'd be high performing, are finally realizing that that was just a little blurb in the radar. So now we're coming back down to normal rates, and that's 60, 65% rate. So, historical data has a place, again, but my opinion is for a lot of folks that inquire about properties is let's not also look at the history. Let's also get in touch with people who manage these properties, property managers. And they'll have a portfolio of a couple hundred properties, and they'll be able to, in my perception, more accurately gauge how a house will perform. Because they might have a house with the same bedroom count, in the same community, with the same amenities. And more importantly, if they're going to manage your property for you, theoretically, they're putting their neck on the line. They're saying, I think this house can perform at this rate, and I'm the property manager to do it. So if you're looking at buying a vacation property, whether it's here in Orlando or anywhere else that's out there, not only historical data, but tune in, plug into a very, very educated, established property manager and have them forecast 6 months, 12 months, 18 months on how your house might perform.
And I think what's great about that is that not only it is a home that you can use yourself for the times when you and your family want to take vacation, but it creates this cash flow that allows you to pay down that mortgage, pay the real estate taxes, and defer some of your costs of owning that luxury experience of having, a vacation home in such a wonderful area as the Disney Corridor.
I would say 75% of the folks that buy a home from me, that's where they start out. As they say, if I can find a property that my family can come visit, I could bring my kids to, I could maybe come on a golf trip with my buddies, my wife could come, I could bring my in-laws, and it could cover its carrying cost, then that's a win. So that's a great opportunity here in Central Florida. We have those experiences all the time for people. If it does cash flow outside of that, that's also a bonus for people. So again, it's just tuning in to figure out what's going to work best for them from a budget perspective, again, community perspective. But the one thing I have, unfortunately, sometimes in front of me is I'll have folks that have had this rental house experience for 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8 years in a row. And they start to think, gosh, maybe I should have considered this a little bit earlier. After I spent, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 every year for the last 10 years, they kind of have to, look at it from the regrets perspective. And that's not a situation or a conversation I want to have with someone. It's a tough place to be.
Absolutely. So buying a home today, especially in a competitive market like Central Florida, can be overwhelming. How do you help buyers or sellers feel confident and supported?
Well, I think you have to make sure you're plugged into, and this is not only in Central Florida, but plugged into a real estate individual who understands the marketplace, and not just by the numbers, but by some of the other things. Have they been to these communities? Have they sold in these communities before? What new projects are headed that way? Again, we talked in the beginning about highways and byways here in Central Florida. That can affect the community, whether it's a commute to school, commute to work. That's important to people. Traffic patterns are important to people. And Orlando being a hyper-growth community, there's a lot of incentives out there too. So, it is about the deal and finding where they can get the most house for their money. But also, let's talk about, how long do you plan on being there for? Are you going to raise your kids there? Is it a vacation home? Is it a place to park your money for a few years? Really understanding what the needs are of my clients. I think what makes myself and the rest of the really successful Central Florida realtors who stand, head and shoulders above the rest, that's part of the formula they need to prescribe to.
Absolutely. And can you share a moment where a client came to you with a big challenge and how you helped them to overcome it?
Yeah, it feels like a lot of times real estate can be challenging. And I was thinking about this the other day. Real estate agents aren't just real estate agents, right? They're therapists, they're junior attorneys, they're movers, they're handymen. They wear all these different hats. But, the challenges that sometimes I come across is I have a lot of people that buy properties sight unseen. Sight unseen. So I would probably venture to say 65 to 70% of my business, people are buying properties that they have not stepped foot in.
Wow.
Now, we've had the blessing of technology, but I also have really tried to dial in my process to allow people to understand what it is they're getting into and how it is they can get out of it. For example, here in the state of Florida, probably like most folks that are listening, we find a property that makes the most sense, whether it's community, price point, proximity, or amenities. If we find a property we like, then we, of course, negotiate what we would consider to be the best price, and we go through an inspection period. Now, I tell my folks, inspection period is like us just taking that product off the shelf and getting a really good close-up look at it. So we hire a certified in Florida inspector to go in, go through all the mechanicals, whether it's the roof, the garbage disposal, the washer and dryer. And then we figure out, is enough of that working correctly? If it isn't working correctly, then how do we get it fixed? And if you don't feel comfortable with that, well, guess what? We have an inspection period, and we can remove ourselves from that transaction. So all I'm really doing for my clients is mentally mapping out the process. In the next 30 or 45 days, here's the things that we're going to do. Always informing them, keeping them in tune. And I think that's where some of the success comes from agents who can do that. And it's sometimes the downfall of agents who don't do enough of that, right? Who don't understand the process. I'll give you a great example if you allow me to do this.
Absolutely.
Let's say you sell $1 million house. I don't know if you've been lucky enough to sell $1 million house. And let's say you get a 3% commission. So before all your fees, that realtor, let's say, makes $30,000. Mm-hmm. So the average real estate transaction, they say, takes about, 30 hours to complete, maybe 35 hours, give or take, from the minute you get the phone call to the time that you close the deal. So if you take your commission, the $30,000, divide it by the amount of hours that you put into the transaction. Now, keep in mind, these hours are not Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, right? Mm-hmm. It's before you jump in the shower in the morning. It's when you're just getting home from dinner with your wife on Friday night, or your kids tugging at your sleeve and say, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy." But it's all these moments added up. 35 hours, $30,000. Take that number, divide it. That's how much you make per hour as a real estate agent. Somewhere in the $895 an hour, probably more than your primary care physician's making, more than the principal of your school is making. So I tell people that because that commitment to time is so important, because the one thing you don't want to have happen is you don't want to be 5, 10, 15 hours into your 35 and then you lose it. You lose it because you didn't explain enough, you didn't take the time to handle it, you didn't set the right expectations, or you didn't listen to your customer. Because at the end of that 15 hours, that means I'm not getting paid. I'm actually paying that person. And that's the last thing I want to do as a professional, is pay someone to have some time with me, right? I'm here to, make a successful transaction and hopefully get people to the finish line.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk about something awesome, a story that left a mark on you, maybe a family or individual you helped where it went beyond just the transaction.
Well, I am in the 15 minutes from the Magic Kingdom, and there's all kinds of magic that happens around this place. About 2 years ago, I know it sticks out to me. 2 years ago, I sold a property to a family from New Jersey, and I said, this one deserves a really, really special kind of closing gift. So what I did was they had a little girl. When they got to the home, again, a sight unseen purchase, they got to the home, they were absolutely in love with it. I actually had a Disney character come to the home and knock on the door. The little girl was beside herself. I don't know if you know the movie The Little Mermaid, but I had Ariel come to the home and we filmed it. Her mother, Waterworks, was in tears. The little girl was so excited, and she couldn't wait to show Ariel around her new house. Oh, gives you, hairs in the back of your neck stand up. And it's funny because a year later, the little girl wrote me a letter and said, "Thank you, Mr. Derrick. We so love our house. If you see Ariel again, make sure you tell her we said hi." So was it just a vacation home? Maybe some realtors think like that. But that's a story that little girl will have for the rest of her life, that her parents' realtor gave them the connection to my community, our town, our experiences here. And yeah, I mean, that's really kind of nurturing your book of business with these special experiences. So that one sticks out for me.
Yeah, that is a powerful story. My goodness, that little girl, when she gets ready to buy a home, I wonder who she's going to be calling in about 15 years, right?
I set the bar really, really high. Really, really high. Yeah.
That is awesome. So what keeps you inspired and motivated in this business?
Opportunity, being able to pivot. Technology is inspiring. What can I do with the tools that are out there? Does social media play a part in it? How do I stand out when it comes to social media? Or do I just blend in like everybody else? So it's constantly trying to, be a little different than the average realtor. And I don't mean to be disrespectful when I say that, but, that's what makes a difference. Those little stories, those little experiences you have, those ways you can just, help people mentally mind map the transaction or the process. Early on in my career, I was lucky enough to sell kitchen cabinets. Some people call them kitchen cupboards, right? And I can't tell you how many times I would show up at a family's house and the mom would be sitting there in the middle of a brand new kitchen and says, "I hate it." And I would say, "But why? All these cabinets, they're beautiful. The installation's great." She goes, "All these little streaks on the wood. It's not how it looked in the showroom. No one ever told me that, there can be mineral streaks or knots of wood, sometimes even called wormholes. No one ever told me that." And the look of despair of these moms, right, in their kitchens, their happy places, and their dream kitchen, and they spent all this money, getting this thing installed, and it didn't meet their expectations, and there wasn't a whole lot I could do, right? So that's a tragedy, and that's a tragedy I don't want anyone in any of my sale processes to experience. I got to make sure we set the expectations right in the beginning, mentally mapping out the process. If we get into a situation, this is how we fix it. And the other thing that realtors can lean on, which they don't do enough of, is tell third-party stories, right? And that can help solve problems, that can create solutions, even create opportunity. And I don't think enough realtors do that. So I don't know if that answers your question for you. I'm kind of long-winded, but
no,
hopefully you got something out of that.
I like that story because you're right. That customer had an expectation. She went to the showroom, and when the result ended, and I'm sure it was not inexpensive, right, to have the cabinets brought in. It wasn't what her expectation was. So you've got to make sure you stay on every detail and make sure that you're watching everything, because that customer, at the end of the day, you want them to come back to you and you want them to refer their friends to you. And if they don't have a happy experience at the end of the day, that's not good for anyone.
Yeah, and I still tell those kitchen stories with a ton of passion, because the average person replaces a kitchen maybe once in their lifetime. Once, you get one shot at making it right, one shot at making mom happy. And the happier mom is, the more she cooks, right, in her kitchen. So things to stay in tune with. So, and I've carried that with me throughout this process, my sales process, making sure, again, just doing the most I can. And even in those moments when you can't figure out, if something does come up, you're always anticipating and trying to stay on top of things.
Absolutely. So, Derrick, you've worked in some of the most structured sales environments from Disney to pharmaceuticals. What systems or tools do you bring into your real estate business that really make a difference for your clients?
Well, I mentioned this the other day on another podcast. It was understanding and nurturing your book of business. After you sell a home, the transaction is not over. You spent very intense amount of time with a person that shared all kinds of special information with you. Their wants, their needs, their desires, their financial information, the where we live now, the dreams, the hopes, the aspirations. So we've had this very intimate relationship, 30, 45 days, maybe a little longer, a little shorter, but you've let me in. And with that permission, I have to make sure I keep nurturing that opportunity that I had with you. And that is how we open our book of business. And this is how referral business happens. So many realtors, after they sell a home, they never again call or check in with that person they sold that home to. They're so worried about their commission, they get their check and they walk away. I constantly make sure I check in with my clients. And because I'm in the state of Florida, I have this luxury of being here where sometimes the weather's a little better here than it is where you are. So throughout the year, I will tag them in pictures, whether it's of a palm tree, of a beach, of a hurricane, just all that kind of stuff that you see going on in Florida. This week, we opened a brand new theme park here. Universal opened up Epic Universe. There's so many of my clients that were really excited about coming down and having another, theme park experience. So you've earned the time with your clients. Don't throw it out. Stay with them, because the people that bought houses from you or properties probably have friends, family that will want to buy houses. You've created that relationship with them. And people are very mobile now, right? They buy houses probably more so than my parents did. They move. They want a second home. And becoming that resource or that reference for people makes all the difference in the world. You spent the money on the marketing dollars, get the most out of it.
Absolutely. That's a great point. So are there any tools or tech you recommend to buyers or sellers to make the process smoother?
Well, I think plugging into a good real estate agent or professional who knows the marketplace is the first place you start. Zillow, Realtor, these different websites out there. I mean, there's a ton of them. You can find a ton of houses online if you just start looking. But you really have to make sure the professional you're working with understands your wants and needs, whether it's from a lending perspective, whether it's from a lifestyle perspective, a usage perspective. Here in the state of Florida, especially in Orlando, I get all of those. I just don't get one because they want to live in a specific school district because that's got the highest propensity to get you to secondary education. I get people that want to live next to Disney, next to Universal. They want a resort style lifestyle. They want to have a community with a water park in it. They love the golf, right? They want to have a golf cart, all these different things. So part of the process is having a good discovery. Even if you as a realtor need to write down 10 questions. I was just training someone the other day. I said, pick out 10 questions, ask them to every single client that you have. Because when you get to the end of it, you're going to have exactly it is what they're looking for. And people appreciate that. People appreciate good service.
Absolutely. So walk us through what someone can expect when they work with you from first call to closing.
Interestingly enough, I ask people what their expectations are of me. So I know in the beginning. And if they don't want to tell me right away, I will use a third-party story. For example, I can tell a client, I can be an agent that calls you every single day with every single lead, and I can tell you about all the new properties, and I can be in your ear all the time, or I can be the once a month, just checking in. Here's what I have that's new. And you wouldn't believe how many people appreciate that. Because so many times a salesperson comes on with their personality, And they might not always click with their client. But if I'm asking you what your expectations are of me, I know from jump what it is you expect and how we can work together to make this a successful transaction.
Yeah, that's a great strategy to really find out what works best for them and what they're most comfortable with. Because you're right, some people they want to be reached out to every 2 days or something like that as you're going through the process, and others are like that's just too much, and it's not to their benefit to overload them. Right?
We all get that. We all sign up for something online, and then we get 1,000 emails, and it's just strangles you, and then we get the product that we sometimes don't get enough information on. And so and it's okay to ask these questions, right? The reason you're in front of me or have contacted me is because you want to buy or sell something. I already know that, right? Now it's just my job to figure out how we're going to do that for you. And it's at your pace. As you can imagine, here in Central Florida, I get people from all over, from Iowa, from New York, New Jersey, California, international folks that have a whole different set of kind of expectations. But every agent, you have that right. You pass that test, right? You have that right to ask that question. And you'd be amazed at some of the answers that you get.
Absolutely. So if someone's on the fence about reaching out or making a move, what would you say to them?
Well, the last thing I ever want to do is make someone feel like they're pressured into buying a product, right? That's the last thing you want to do, because the sale does not feel organic. And at the end of the day, you're going to have buyer regret. And that's the last thing you want to do, is have buyer regret. But sometimes what we can do as salespeople is understand the urgency of a specific scenario. For example, I have the best 5-bedroom home in this community for sale. I have another client who's interested. I'm just reaching out to see where you are in your process. Right? Would you like me to show you pictures of it? Would you like to find out what the monthly payment is on it? Would you like me to make contact with the property manager? Right? So all I'm really trying to do is get them to the point of acceptance that, oh my gosh, we're going to do this. And the minute we start to I have a broker who talks about pushing paper around, and that is really just saying we're committing to the process, right? And you can tell when people are committed to the process because they're calling, they're following up, and you can also tell when they're not so committed to the process. But, there's never a bad time to buy real estate, in my opinion. It's just you have to be ready to do it.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%, for sure.
Yep.
So, Derrick, thank you for joining us and sharing your journey from Disney's.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, from Disney's college program to one of Orlando's top producing real estate professionals. Your story is inspiring and a reminder that real estate is about people first. To connect with Derrick or his team more, check out the links in our show notes or visit reunionrealty.com/Derrick. And if you're looking to get pre-approved or explore financing options, I'd love to help. Visit us at dreamhomepodcast.com or reach out directly to me at CMG Home Loans. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who's thinking about buying or selling. Thanks for tuning in to the Dream Home Podcast. See you next time. Derrick, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking time today.
See you in Florida.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Dream Home Podcast, hosted by John Nagle. Ready to take the next step toward your dream home? Visit www.dreamhomepodcast.com for resources, tips, and expert advice. If you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe, leave a review, and join us next time for more real estate insights and mortgage tips. Until then, happy home hunting.